Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. My guest today is Tiffany Lawson. Tiffany Lawson is a coach and she works with Kathleen Metcalf and their 90 Days to Thrive coaching program. And this is a program for new real estate admin hires and their agent to help the two of them get started on the right foot. I've been working with Kathleen and her team for about 5 years, and she and I work very closely together. We hire the assistant, Kathleen's team trains them, and it's a wonderful partnership. And I wanted to have Tiffany on today to talk about the steps that she goes through in the 90 Days to Thrive process to coach the agent and the admin to help them grow together. So it doesn't matter if you're going to use Kathleen's process, the 90 Days to Thrive coaching program or not. The concepts that we talk about in this interview can be applied to any team, any hire. I mean, these are very universal concepts, and I'm really looking forward to sharing this interview with you. Now, in this interview, we're talking about getting a new admin hire up and running. So the one part is training the admin, but there's this other really important component to this, which is developing your leadership skills and growing as a leader so that you can show up the way your new hire needs you to, so the two of you can be successful. This leadership component is essential, and that's why I've started offering leadership coaching, and I will include my link in the description below. But if developing your leadership skill set and growing as a leader so that you can grow a larger organization and learn how to get things done through other people, if that's something that is important to you or you see that that's a skill set you'd like to develop, reach out. I'd love to have a conversation with you to see if we're a good fit to coach together. Again, my contact information will be in the description below. All right, let's get into the interview. All right, Tiffany, hi, how are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, well, for our audience, Tiffany and I were reflecting that it's been about 2 years since she was last on the podcast. So it's
Yeah.
high time to have Tiffany back. When you and I were first speaking, you had just joined Kathleen Metcalf and her organization, and now you're like running the show when it comes to 90 Days to Thrive over there. So it was high time to have you back on to talk about the new hire onboarding process. So I'm really thrilled to have you here and excited to be able to kind of go into that in more detail.
Yes, me too. It's definitely my biggest passion, obviously, running the whole program now. And just, I always tell people I wouldn't be able to sit here and talk about it unless I failed so many times before. It's really honestly what gives me the chair I sit in now. So
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, you bring a lot of experience. So you've worked both as a high-level executive assistant to a real estate team, and you are a real estate agent.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I've sat in every seat of the real estate bus you could probably think of or create or make up. And for me, I've been such a growth minded individual. So anytime I would get in a role, I would say, okay, how can I own this, take it to the next level, and then grow more? What does that look like? And I just always had that mindset into everything I did. So, I went from being an executive assistant to a marketing manager to, building a team and being a director of operations to being an agent and, helping my team build out our sales team. Right. And then, I went in residential at first, and then I moved into commercial because, what an opportunity to learn, right? They're like black and white.
Right.
Really, they're completely different. And so I was just always looking for what else can I learn? How much can I consume? And where is it going to take me?
Well, today we get to dig into those first 90 days. And when we had our prep call, you said something that I really liked. You said the first 90 days is the starter kit. What does that mean?
It is. There is there is a lot to encompass in 90 days. There's a lot to unpack. And so I really like to say this is the starter kit because there are so many things that can happen in 90 days. depending on where a team's at, where, their people are, where their business is, what's going on with the market. There's so many things that we have to take into account for the first 90 days that it's just like a quick introduction to all of these things I have to teach and to coach around, right? And then after that is kind of like the refinement stage. So yeah, it's a quick starter kit because there's just so much information and so many things to go over and so many things happen in 90 days that generally when we start and when we finish, it's completely different.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so when we were thinking about the format of today's call and how we wanted to address this, we agreed that we would talk about each of the coaching calls that you have throughout the 90 Days to Thrive program. And we're using this just as a framework to talk about best practices around hiring and onboarding. So if you're never going to use the 90 Days to Thrive program, totally fine. But the steps that we're going to talk about are pretty universal. I mean, this is a methodology that you've helped to create for how do we get somebody from day 1 to day 90 and make sure that they're thriving, successful, and we're on track. So let's start with the introduction. So first things first, you meet with the agent and the admin. What are some of the first things that need to be sorted out at the beginning of the engagement?
Well, as I do with any introduction, is I want to define what the expectations are. What are the expectations of the agent or the rainmaker? What are the expectations of the person that they're hiring? And what do they need? How can I best support them as a coach? What can I provide for them? So it's really a big expectations conversation. And in that, I like to define habits, goals, communication, clarity. Those are my big rocks in that conversation, because I always say, if we start working with the good habits now, it'll really help us thrive long term, because we'll touch base on those, in steps as we go. However, I want to set you up for success now. And the best way that I can do that is to talk about what the expectations are and the habits that we're going to create now or in the process of this first 90 days to really be set up for success, because there's nothing better than having really good habits in place, right?
Perfect. So let's talk about what do you mean by expectations? So if I'm an agent listening to this call and I think, well, sure, I have expectations, but I don't really know how to articulate that, or what should I expect to hear from my new hire? Can you give some examples?
Yeah. So a good expectation would be, an easy expectation would be, what time are they coming into the office? What time are they leaving? What time? And a lot of times too, I have the agents share their calendar with their admin, let alone whether they've been in real estate or not. They need to see some sort of rhythm to how they can best support you as an agent, right? And so a lot of times that's, when can I communicate with you? If I'm your admin and I need to ask you questions, when's the best time for us to get together, right? So communication is key. Same with clarity. However, in communication, in building this habit, there shouldn't be, hey, do you have a second? Hey, I need to talk to you. Hey, this, hey, that, a billion text messages, a ton of emails. It shouldn't be like that. A lot of times it is, right? And so the expectation is, when are we going to schedule to talk to one another, to say, hey, how's it going? What do you need? Here's deadlines that I need things by. And then, 3 check-ins a day. So in the morning, right? Mid-morning, maybe check your emails, get a little comfortable in the office or at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Some people work at home too. Midday, how did everything go this morning? How do you feel? Is there anything that you need from me? Is there anything that I need to teach you? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then afternoon, okay, how was today? How did your time go? How did you feel about the systems that we used? Right. So it's kind of just this three ticketed item, right, for communication. Some people need more, some people need less. However, I recommend 3 because it just gives me an idea of how my day is going to go as an admin moving forward. And my agent can understand and expect, like, okay, I'm going to touch base with them this time, and this time. So I now need to structure myself and my day around lead gen, appointments, negotiating. So.
Right. And I love this batching of communication because I
Mhm.
mean, you're absolutely right. Those little micro interruptions on both sides, the agent shooting the text or like yelling over, around the door saying, "Hey, don't forget about this." It's disruptive on both sides. And so if
Yeah,
both people can agree that we're going to speak at designated times and we're going to power through the things we need to discuss, it frees both people up to actually get work done the rest of the
right.
time and creates a good rhythm and habit.
Mhm.
So we also you wanted to talk about the 30, 60, 90 framework and kind of how that lays out. So how should an agent who's bringing on a new admin think about those time frames and what's reasonable to expect in 30,
Yeah.
60, 90?
Great question. So, as an agent, you have to inspect what you expect, right? So, in 30 days from now, if you wanted to set up, marketing campaigns or you wanted to put on an event, right? Well, we have to put things in place in the next 30 days so that not like day 28, we're not scrambling to find everything that we need to put this together, right? And so, it provides a high accountability for a 30, 60, 90. So in 30 days, what do we want to accomplish? And what does that look like? In 60 days, what do we want to accomplish? And what does that look like? And then in 90 days, what are all the things that we would want to accomplish in our first like introduction of one another?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so a lot of times too, I tell them, okay, in doing this, right? Because I think the second stage, which we'll probably get into, is time management.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be able to define these things because a lot of times I need you to spend this time on this and this time on this. And then these are the priorities because in the beginning, everything is kind of a consistent priority. Everything is just as important as the other. And so in building this 30, 60, 90, it really helps an admin define and analyze where the needs of the agent lies. And it's just high accountability to those things, right? Because really the goals are the priorities of what the agent or the team needs. And it's just a matter of defining it, building it, and providing clarity so that it works so we accomplish the goals ahead.
Perfect. Okay, so let's move on to, we talked a little bit just now about time blocking and time management, and that's typically your
Mm.
first one-on-one call with the admin. Is there anything else around that topic that we should dig into here?
For time management,
Mm-hmm.
well, there are 3 stages in time management that I teach the admin because I do time blocking at a very high level. Like if you look at my calendar, you will either love it or it will give you major anxiety. However, what I have to teach them and showing them my time block is that this is something that I have consecutively been working on for 10 years. Your time block is not a set it and forget it. You cannot just say, I'm going to do all of this all week and it's all going to work out. As anybody in real estate knows, that's not true, right? So it's something that we consistently have to build and work on and leverage and, the million things that come to it. So the very first thing I ask admin to put in their time block is their personal time. Their
Okay.
personal time, because that is so important. I feel when I was an admin, there were times that I burnt out because I was pouring into everyone else's cup but my own.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really important for me to say, hey, when are you going to lunch? When are you taking a break? When are you going to work on yourself and your goals and what your team can help keep you accountable to on a personal level? What does that look like? And so I started to define it in my calendar because if it wasn't on my time block, it didn't exist.
Right.
And then after that, I say, okay, that was the first stage, personal time. Because yeah, you do have to take a lunch. I know some admin fight me on it, but it's true. You need to. You need that
Yeah.
break. You need that separation to come back and, have that momentum to keep going. Second thing is anything of standing time, meaning meetings, touch bases, times with clients, things that are just consecutive that we do each and every week at the same time, the same day.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third thing is CRM, project management, lead gen systems, or anything else that you have to work on that you're responsible for. And in doing the time block for anybody who is new at it, I say, don't even focus on the week, focus on today and tomorrow consistently, because over time, it will build your transparency on what you are doing when and how long
Mm-hmm.
things are taking you, because that's important data that we're going to utilize moving forward.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, it's a universal thing. The boss just thinks that things don't take as much time as they do, right?
Right.
And in the beginning, things are going to take longer because they're new. But that CRM project was interrupted 15 times because the phone rang, the agent asked for something, something else
Yep.
happened, another thing came through. And so, yeah, shouldn't have taken 2 hours, but it didn't happen in a vacuum. So having clarity and transparency, I love that. That's
Mhm.
fantastic. So then you talk to the agent, and this is your get to know the agent, and you start to talk about delegation and communication, like the
Yes.
big rock. So
Right.
what do agents who are new to leadership, new to management, what do they need to understand about delegation and communication?
Yeah. So admins in general are people pleasers. So in delegation, we have to provide a lot of clarity because the priorities at hand in the very beginning are generally similar across the board. Everything is just as much as of a priority as anything else, right? Whether it's filling out listing paperwork for a client or finding chairs for an event, right? They don't understand sometimes that no, actually, money making items come first, events and stuff can come next, but they're super consecutive. So it's important. I can't stress it enough in delegation is that they have to be clear on how long they need to be spending on what and what is the most important compared to the next, right? And that kind of reflects on the communication, right? That we talk about in the very beginning, as far as the 3 touch points you have every single day. That's a good time for the agent to kind of see and help define the admin with their time on what they're spending their time on. Yeah, no, I don't want you to spend 4 hours looking for an event venue for our event next week. No, that's not as important as these buyers who need to have set up showings, right? And so it's so important in delegating, hey, I need this from you. This is more important than that. And I need it by 2 p.m. this afternoon. Do you have all the information that you need to get this done? Or is there anything that I need to go over with you before you get started? Right. So just communication is key. I always say take it on the next level, right? Not just, hey, are you doing okay? Hey, how did you do with this assignment? Or hey, do you need anything for this system? Did you watch the videos? Did you read the manual? What does that look like to you? How can I best support you to get the things done that you need to?
Right. And I mean, that goes into just like the definition of leadership. I mean, as a leader, you are learning how to accomplish things through other people. Your role in that is to make sure the people you are delegating to know what they need to do, have clear expectations, have the tools and resources to get that done.
Yep.
The other side of this for any admins who are listening, this is where your managing up skill really comes in. So
Mhm.
something's delegated to you and there's a lack of clarity. You're responsible, one, for understanding what your time availability is that day, what else they've already told you is urgent and important and already due at 3 p.m. So that in that moment you can say, great, I hear you. I understand that you need this. And you've also said that this is due by 3 p.m. Which of these is more important? And
Yes.
putting that decision back, to the person who's delegated the tasks to you. I find
Absolutely.
that young admin and experienced admin get flustered in this process, and they don't speak up. And this is where you
Right.
really do need to manage your boss, because your boss just thinks everything's magically just gonna happen on time. And they
Yeah.
forgot that they told you that these 3 other things are important. I'm a boss, trust me. My Liza is so good at managing my expectations about what is realistic and what isn't. And damn, is she fast and on it, but she's human. Like, there has to be an order of priorities. And so, I mean, it's a two-way street. And as a boss, if you show up frustrated, annoyed, or you push back and you're like, look, it all just has to get done, I don't know, I gotta go,
Hmm.
you're creating a situation where where the person who works for you just can't be successful, and you start a
Right.
downward spiral.
Yeah.
So, and then in communication, so you sort of touched on this. Is there anything else around communication best practices for the leader?
Yeah, I mean, you touched it a little bit because I like to go into feedback, right? I slowly introduce it because we're not at a stage yet where it's like full-fledged feedback, right? Because we're just in like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
However, feedback, yes, I do say to the admin, feedback goes both ways, right? They're going to give you good feedback and they're going to give you corrective feedback of, what they need from you or what they need you to define. And that's when you also provide feedback. Hey, this really worked for me. And hey, this doesn't. This is too much, or this, we have too many systems, this, that, and the other. So I always encourage them. Your number one customer as an admin is your agent. Your number one customer as an admin is your agent. It is not the client. It is the agent, right? The number one customer for your agent is the client.
Right.
So how can we best cater and support our agent? And generally that is us speaking up about what's working and what's not working, because majority of the systems, the admin is going to own.
Yep.
They're just going to tell the agent where to go, what to do. Here's this I prepared for you. Say this, don't say that. By the way, they just got married, whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have your back. So that's important in understanding the feedback that we're going to work on moving forward in communication.
Perfect. So now we're about a month in and you have your next meeting with the admin and we're talking about problem solving and workflow.
Yes. Yes. So mistakes are the opportunity for growth. So being learning based is going to be key here. So a lot of times this is like a mindset conversation, because I need them to really be engaged with being a problem solver and trying to work ahead, not waiting for, like, as I would tell an agent, right? This is like when the client comes to us and say, hey, where's the inspection report? When are we getting that? What did the people say about our house on the showings this weekend, right? When the client asks us, it's normally I call it a failure. I mean, right? But it's something that's missing in our system.
Right.
Well, the same thing applies as an admin to the agent, right? We now understand, or we're still in the process of understanding the systems, how the team operates, how it works, so that we can kind of step a little bit more into ownership and say, okay, I can see now what I'm working with, and here's where I can work on being ahead of things.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So like for example, the workflow, I go back into the systems, right? What information do we need in our database? Because generally for an admin, the database is like the biggest obstacle. Usually with my experience, it's we have to clean out the whole thing, or we have to redo it, or we're changing CRMs, or it's always huge, right? And so I always like to mentally prepare them that this is usually the biggest project, other than creating like an operations manual, which, we can get into that too.
Mm-hmm.
But the workflow, I always like to say, what do the three systems look like for workflow as far as our CRM or our lead gen system and our project management system? Those are the three main workflows that I like to focus on with them, to get them to understand, like, these are the things that you own, and you in turn will start delegating. We're not there yet, right? We're figuring things out still. We're turning the wheels. So
perfect. Okay. So then your next meeting is a check-in with the agent and the admin. So if you are doing this process on your own, I think it is so important to have a separate, not a to-do check-in meeting, but a real 30-day, where are we now versus where we started? How are you feeling? How are you doing? Are expectations being met? So how do you run that meeting?
Yeah, so I like to pull up the 30, 60, 90 that we created in the beginning and share, like, where are we? Because more than not, a lot of times in 30 days, things have already changed, right? Whether it's the tasks that we have, or the people we're adding onto our team, or the systems, right? And so I always say, I am not surprised when we A, don't meet all of our 30-day goals, or B, don't have all of our 30-day goals in there. So this is the perfect opportunity for us to see moving forward, okay, what worked? What from the goals that we set, what goals did we make? If we didn't make them, why? Was it the person or the system? What does that look like? And it really is a lot of self-discovery as far as, okay, I need to be more accountable to this. Or as an agent, I need to be accountable to handing these things off to my admin because I'm holding on to things still.
Yeah.
So it's like a big self-discovery session. And it really kind of helps with the momentum of, okay, here's where we are, here's what we're working with, and now here's what we're going to do to be better moving forward. So it's just a really great reflection time for everyone to kind of see, man, like here's where I need to be tuned in with, or hey, we are on goal. This is awesome. Like this works. You're right. Oh my gosh. And so it's a really great session.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So next we talk about ownership and client services with the admin. And man, ownership, that is like the key word. As a recruiter, every client says, I just want someone who will, take ownership and treat it like it's their company and, just own their job and then tell me what to do. And
Yep.
there's a lot of stuff in that statement. I mean, we're going to talk
Yep.
about this on the practical side, but then the other side is if you want someone to really care about your business, agents,
Mhm.
you really have to show up as someone who is caring for your employee. How are you showing up? How are you pouring into your employee? Are you, how are you leading them? How are you supporting them? Are you paying them fairly? Are you, making sure that they have what they need?
Mhm.
That is how you get someone to buy in and want to show up
Right.
100% for you. Handing somebody a paycheck,
Mhm.
and I don't care how much you pay them, doesn't engender loyalty or ownership. Full
Yeah.
stop.
Right. And I like to talk a lot about values too,
Mhm.
because so for me, I like to work with people who we just share the same values. We value the same thing. Everybody is in it to win it we are all wanting the same thing here. We're all shooting for the same goal.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to kind of realize like, hey, what are your values at this time? Are we in alignment? It That's so important too, because for me, I have more ownership of things when I know that I am sharing the same values because we talk about it, or it's just culturally existing in our environment, right?
Mhm.
A lot of times too, I'll have my agents take their admin out to lunch. I'm like, do you guys work virtual? And a lot of times, or it's not they work virtual, but they're just never in the office with each other.
Mhm.
Hey, are you spending time to really get to know this person? Because in real estate, it's a very intimate relationship with a team. You
Yeah.
spend a lot of time together, a lot of life events happen naturally as time goes by. So, are we still in alignment? Do we share the same values? And what are my values if I don't even know, right? What does that look like to me?
I
So
love
I
that.
think it's a really
In the Hire Lab hiring process, so the process we follow at Pro R.E.A staffing, checking culture fit and talking about values is a major step in that hiring process so that we know that before we hire. And it's
Mhm.
so key. And I do think you need to continue to check in. And I like what you said about just connecting on a human level, take your assistant out to lunch. We need to treat our employees like humans and build connection. They are not robots. They're not a cog in a machine. And
Right.
you will develop a much richer, a much more complete relationship if you pour into your admin and treat them like a human and
Absolutely.
connect with them. So
Yeah,
important. So
absolutely.
so when you're talking to the admin about taking ownership, how do you help them kind of step more into that role?
Yeah, so now it's the phase of, okay, we're in the systems, we're in the weeds now, right? And so now it's a part of how do I cater and how do I support my agent to cater to our clients to reflect the things that happen with my agent and their client, right? So a lot of times this is where I'm like, are you shadowing? Right? Are you shadowing your agent? Are you seeing what they do? Are you hearing what they say? Because you need to be a reflection of them. So when you pick the phone up and talk to the client about what stage they're at in the transaction, or hey, just checking in, you need to sound like them. You need to be a good reflection of them, right? You need to be able to, because that's the best handoff that an agent could ever give to an admin, is if the admin is a complete reflection of them, because then it's like, oh, I don't have to worry about them getting things done or checking in and making or micromanaging or this, that, and the other. So a lot of times this is a conversation I have with the admin as far as how can you set up better expectations for your clients so that they understand and know you're this next step in the process, right? Like you're now taking this ownership on talking to the client or whatever that handoff may be. So then, you can be comfortable to build the relationship together. That's so important. And then that way, because I know like the agents can be in their happy zone, right? Lead gen, negotiating, going to closings, all the things that the top things that they need to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's huge.
Perfect. All right. So now you're talking to the agent, and this is when we start talking about accountability.
Yeah. So this is a leadership conversation usually, as far as how are you showing up as a leader? How are you being accountable in the ways in which, now that we're handing off ownership, right? We're in the process. It's happening. How are you showing up? How, it's kind of going back over the communication. What's working? What's not working, right? Because sometimes this can be the messy middle, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're like halfway there to our 90 days. It can sometimes be the messy middle, because now your business has changed tremendously since having someone on, especially if you've never had someone on, right?
Right.
You've given up a lot. Where are you now? What does business look like? Are you focusing on the things that you need to focus on? So it's kind of a little reflection for them, as far as, how do I want to be as a leader moving forward? How have I been showing up? What's working for me? What's not working for me?
Right.
Am I happy? Are things going the way they should?
I love this conversation, and it's a conversation I have with agents before they make their hire. When we're talking about the job description for their first full-time assistant, we're also talking about, well, what's your new job description going to be? If they have a coach, this is a lot easier because they'll create that new business plan with their coach. But if you've suddenly freed up 40 hours of your week, what are you doing with those 40 hours? What's your plan? Right?
Right.
And I've seen it go both ways. A great assistant can help you double or triple your business in the next 2 to 3 years if you use that leverage correctly. But I've also
Right.
seen agents who get an assistant and then they just go play golf, and then they don't understand. Like, I don't understand. I have this assistant. Why am I not making more money? Well, what are you doing differently now that you have
Right.
the support? And so that's important. But then there's this other piece that I want to talk about. You talked about the messy middle, and this is where the training wheels have come off. The admin is more, on their own, doing their job, and mistakes are going to be made.
Yeah.
And how you handle a mistake as the leader, it
Mm-hmm.
makes a huge difference. And I always like to share how we do things at R.E.A staffing with my team. So we really believe in failing forward, to the point that we have a fail forward Slack channel. And when someone messes up, they are like, hey, you guys, you wouldn't believe what I did today. And I put my things in there too. We own it. We address, like, okay, how do we fix this now? And then we modify our system so it doesn't happen again. It's just part of being a business. Stuff's going to break, things are going to go wrong, but we can address it, like, in a practical, pragmatic way, and just move forward. And so you could probably talk about this more than me. So what happens when an admin is starting to make some mistakes and the agent doesn't handle it well? How does that tend to play out?
This is such a great question. Yes. So, well, your business grows to the extent that you do, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of times this is a great opportunity, just like your admin or whoever it is that you hired, they have a new role that they're taking on. Well, as an agent or rainmaker, so do you. And leadership is hard. I mean, it is, right? But there are things that you can take into account as far as how you come across to get what you need to, right? Like I always say, I ask questions. I ask a lot of questions to my clients because I want them to self-discover, but I also am firm about coming from curiosity. I do not ever want to make an assumption. That is the worst thing you could probably do, right? And so I like to come at your tone means a lot. I think the best question you can ask is, help me understand. This is what you did, and this was the result that we needed. How did you get there? How can I support you into learning or understanding the right way to do things? Did I fail in my execution to give you instructions? Help me understand. And so it's so powerful.
So powerful. And what I want to point out is that you did not use why questions there.
No.
Never.
No. Yeah.
Because why is very parental. Why didn't you do this? Why did you think that was okay? Why did this happen? It's accusatory. It's not helpful. It's not productive. You asked how questions.
Mm-hmm.
And, help me understand, like, how did we come to, how did you come to that decision, or how did we get here? How can I support you? That's productive. Why questions are not productive.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a helpful little hint.
No, and it really opens up to, we are a team. This is not me against you or me versus you. We are a team. And if you fail, I fail with you. And so if you need help getting there, I have to be the one to help you get there. We are a team. We're equally a team.
Right. And, sometimes I think new leaders take it personally when mistakes are made. It's sort of this personal affront. And I know Kathleen says this, I'm sure you do too. Admins don't wake up every morning going, I wonder how I can tick off my boss today. I wonder how I can ruin their day, right? They feel terrible when they make a mistake. Like you might be upset, but they're really wallowing in it. And it doesn't help to pour fuel on the fire. So this is your self-awareness and how you show up in those situations is really key. And there's also this this adage that any mistake a new hire makes in the first 90 days is your fault as the leader. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. At some point, there was a lack of training, a lack of oversight, a lack of something, because you're the leader, you're in charge. The buck stops with you, and they're still learning. And so if you look at it as like, how did I mess up in this situation that caused this other thing to happen? It changes how you address it. Now, 6 months from now, when they've been trained, that's a different story. That doesn't mean we don't react positively, but it's less, your mistake. But you've got to own everything that happens in those first 90 days.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also important to add that it is very necessary to talk about it, because for me, I like to teach people, I am not going to sit in the suck with you. We are going to talk about the problem, and then that's totally fine. We can address it, but we are going to be solution based. Yeah. Because if we're consistently working on or taking ownership, hey, this is what happened, this is what I did, this is what I'm going to do moving forward, gold.
Yep. Perfect. Okay. Moving on to predictability and auditing the systems with the agent. Oh, sorry, with the admin.
Admin. Yep. So predictability is as far as what are we doing consistently now, right? We can reflect a little bit about like time management, for example. What have we realized? Where's the transparency on, we're owning the role, we're getting into it, we're getting into the predictability of this happens, and then this and this and this happens, right? So a lot of times it's going back into the checklist. Do our checklists work for us, or are they just there existing? And a lot of times it's I have a lot of agents who have a ton of systems and tools and stuff in place that work for them. Mm-hmm. Right. But now we've brought someone on, we've let them have ownership. We've let them have the systems, they're managing and running them, right? And now, are the checklists and stuff working for the admin? And a lot of times they're not. So I say, hey, let's make it so that it works for you. Because again, you're owning it. This is yours now, right? You're taking over so that they don't have to look at the checklist, or they don't have to, they can still go out, meet clients and make appointments and all those things that they're supposed to be doing. And what's the predictability on how these things are working from you? Are we creating consistency as far as learning from the mistakes, right? Oh, hey, I forgot to, have the sign person come take the sign out of the yard. I need to add that to my checklist so that I don't make that mistake again, right? Consistency on building the systems is even important.
Perfect. All right, then now we're up to our 60-day agent and admin check-in. What's different about this check-in from that first 30-day one?
So a lot of times we get into the handoff here as far as, okay, we know and understand the systems. We're either communicating at a high level or we're not. We need to work on it still, right? How's the clarity going and how is the handoff? Because the admin's now owning the systems, we're working through the checklist. What's the handoff like? Is there anything that's still messy? And a lot of times there is, right? And it's just kind of analyzing, what does that look like? Where do I need to put my focus in? At this stage, a ton of times too, my agents have a lot of ideas rolling in and we don't know how to manage all of them. So I say, oh, this is such a great time to talk about, our systems and the opportunity. So we have the CRM, we are working through the database, and like now we need to really focus on managing our projects. What does that look like? Because I know agents who go to events and then they come home and they're like, I have 20 things I want to do. I want this new system and I want to send this to our clients and I want all of these things. And as an admin, they need to say, whoa, 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 whoa. That's wonderful. And how can we manage our day to fit that in? What does that look like?
Yeah.
And so a lot of times we get into project management, if we haven't already, as far as what ideas have we come up with? Do we need to set a monthly meeting to kind of pull out our idea list and say, hey, what do we want to focus on this month? Or, hey, what's really no longer suitable for our vision anymore? What can we take off the list? And I think that's really important for growth, right? Because now we're kind of like our wheels are turning, right? We get what we're doing. We understand the systems. We're really getting to know the agent. And what are the goals like? We've been hitting our goals 30, 60, 90, or we've been adjusting our goals in the 30, 60 days. And what do we want to add to the mix? What do we want to add to the vision so that we're also meeting other goals for more futuristic other than the next 30 days? Like, what about a year from now? What can we do today that will impact us next year at the same time? What does that look like?
And one of the things that tends to come up when an admin leaves too early, so it's 6 months in, a year in, and the agent is calling me to commiserate about it. And they'll say, I had all these things I wanted them to do, and then I told them that I wanted accomplished, and then they left, and I looked around and I realized, like, I still don't have an operations manual, and this thing didn't happen, and this thing didn't happen, and I think there's really a two-way street. As an admin, if your agent produces lots of ideas, they have lots of things on their wish list, you need to surface those things with your agent on a regular basis and say, where are we with this? What's a priority? What isn't? And make sure that you're bringing that back up. And an agent, if you've asked for something and you haven't heard anything about it in a while, then you need to address it and set some clear deadlines and make sure that you guys are in agreement about what is a priority and what we're working on now. You can't just toss out these things that you say you want and then show up a year later and be disappointed that they haven't happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And now's a good time to reflect on, hey, are you spending time together as you should? Right? Because I know we talked about earlier on, right? We have those 3 times that we touch base with one another. Well, how is that going? Are you skipping days where you're not talking to each other at all because we're in the weeds? What does that look like? How do we get back to that? Because I still want the value piece to show up in the relationship, right? As agents, I think sometimes we just get caught up when there's business, we go after it, right? However, we also have to be pouring into our team. I can't express that enough. And so are you still providing time to your admin that you need to? And are you honoring that time? Because if it's not working, then let's find a different time that works. But we do need to honor that time together because we're still in the very beginning. We're still learning and understanding one another. But for value purposes, we still need to honor time together.
Perfect. Okay, so now we get into performance reviews. Talk about that.
Yeah, so 10, 11, and 12 are generally a time where, okay, we have just learned a lot. And now it's a time that I don't do a lot of the reflecting for them, or I don't do as much guiding, right? Mm-hmm. But now they step in and they really answer some questions as far as, what do you see are the values of the team? what are the goals from your perspective? What do you like most about your job? What do you like least about your job? You know, if what feedback do you have for your agent? Do you have anything that disappointed you? Right? What are the goals from your perspective moving forward, whether 1 month to 1 year out? What does that look like? What, and a lot of times too, they, the super talented ones will think of goals and things that they foresee for the team that the agent didn't even think about. Right.
Mhm.
But they've taken so much ownership that now they're like, I see what we're working with, and here's where we have the possibility to go.
Mhm.
That is so powerful. So a lot of times too, I kind of get to see like this different side of them where they really are taking on the ownership and expressing it at a totally different level. So it's such a gift. And then the next, I meet with the agent and they actually get to read through what we wrote on the performance review for the admin
Mhm.
to write theirs, because either they're on the same page or they're not.
Mhm.
And so let's define that. What does that look like? And so finally, we talk about it. So usually it's a big learning experience, or it's like, oh my gosh, we're on the same page. This is awesome. The best hire I've ever made. My business is thriving.
Yeah.
Or, sometimes it's okay. We need to put in some work. What
Mhm.
does that look like? And so from the goals perspective, a lot of times they can be different. And so it's just a matter of, are we in alignment, and what does that look like? And if we need to be in alignment, what comes next for us? What does that look like? So it's a huge reflection, and a lot of times it's very celebratory time too, because it's like, finally, like, I found my match.
Yes, I love to hear that. That's what I live for. That's what our recruiters live for,
Yes.
right? To find that match, right? And I think that's one of the fun things about recruiting in this space, because we're not
Mm,
just putting an admin in a bullpen somewhere. I mean, this is a very close relationship. It's not just skills and experience and
right.
job, salary. It's culture,
Mm,
it's values, it's personality, it's personal, professional, financial goals. All so many things have to align,
mhm.
and and it's hard work sometimes finding that perfect fit. But man, when you find it and you get through those first 90 days, it changes everything. I
Yeah.
mean, that agent is on a totally different trajectory than they were 90 days before, and that's just so cool to see.
Yes, I love it so much. And, again, it really helps me to grow as a coach or as a leader for them too, right? Because there's so much that I want for both of them. Like, I feel like sometimes I want it more than they do. Like, I can see the potential too.
Yeah,
And so just so great to hear, like, oh my gosh, this was so worth it. And here's what we want to do moving forward. And to just watch people grow together is such a gift.
absolutely. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for walking through those first 90 days and how you coach admin and their agent through this onboarding process. And hopefully, whether you're able to work with Tiffany and Kathleen Metcalf's team or not, you've gathered a lot of a lot of information that you can apply to your own hiring and onboarding process. So, Tiffany, I will make sure to include your contact information in the description below in case anybody wants to reach out to you for support onboarding their new hire. And if you haven't made your hire yet, make sure to reach out to me and my team at proreastaffing.com to get help finding that person who will be your perfect match. All right. Thanks, Tiffany.
Thanks, Vanessa.